Hello, the Pioneer viewers. How are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. As the Pioneer team, we are here with a review report. In a moment, we will share with you an incredible event that happened in Russia recently. Let's ask a question. If you were the Russian citizen, what would you expect from the Russian army? You expect it to protect you, right? So you don't think that the Russian army is likely to harm you, but the Russian people are worried about this. Because the Russian army has once again made an unbelievable mistake, as it has done many times before, and targeted the Russian people. Anti-tank shells hit the Russian school. So what are the details of this incident? Let's take a look at developments together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to bring you developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the videos. Thank you for your support. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. The Russian army continues to assimilate the Ukrainian people in the occupied territories. One of these assimilation efforts is that the settlements of the Russian citizens in the occupied Ukrainian territories. If necessary, the Russian government is forcibly settling the Russian people in the occupied Ukrainian territories. Of course, the reason for this settlement is clear: to ensure that the Russian citizens become the majority in the region. In this way, the Russian administration will try to legitimize the Russian occupation. There are schools built here. The children of the resettled Russian citizens received education here. The education policy here is to legitimize the policies of Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, in the minds of young children. In these schools, very extreme Russian nationalist ideas are taught to the Russian children. According to local sources, the children of the indigenous Ukrainian population are also forcibly sent here. Ukrainian children are being stripped of their identity. Recently, there was an event in one of these schools. For the event, everywhere in the occupied territory was decorated with the Russian flags. The school gymnasium was also decorated with the Russian flag. As we mentioned, the assimilation policies of the Russian governments are being carried out in these schools. According to reports, this event was organized as a product of these policies. Many students and their parents were in this building. Many of them were brought there by force. But something unexpected happened. Suddenly, there was a loud noise in the gymnasium. The cause of this noise was an explosion, and the explosion was caused by the Russian soldiers. Allegedly, there was an ammunition depot and a training ground for the Russian army near the school. The Russian administration knew that the Ukrainian army would not attack a school, so they built this warehouse and training ground next to the school. And the Russian soldiers here caused a major accident. An anti-tank missile hitting the wall of the school caused a big tremor. The moments of panic after the missile hit were also reflected on the cameras. There was a great panic in the hall where many students and parents were present. According to the region sources, 6 people were injured. Local sources also report that there was a small amount of debris. However, there is no confirmed reports on this issue yet. According to the information we have obtained from local sources, Russian citizens residing in the region show a great reaction to the Russian administration. The Russian settler who made a statement to one of these sources used the following statement. They brought us here by force. They said we would be further away from the war, but they themselves brought the war to us. Who built the military building next to the school? Don't they train the soldiers in the military building? We had children there. What if something had happened to them? The administration doesn't care about them. No one's life is worth anything to them. Another statement came from the family of one of the children being assimilated. The family, originally from Ukraine, made the following statements about this issue. Now the Russians have seen with their own eyes how brutal their government is. We already knew how brutal the Russian occupiers are, and this incident did not surprise us, but it has scared us. Our children are very scared. There will be no peace for us or the Russians until the occupation ends. According to local reports, the Russian war leadership has launched an investigation into the matter. As the investigation is being conducted in secret, we don't think and we don't have much information about it at the moment. However, we expect to hear about the repercussions of this incident in the coming days. The mistakes by the Russian army shakes the confidence of even most extreme Russian nationalists in the Russian army. We have already mentioned that the Avdiivka battles are coming to an end. Russian propagandists who have been criticizing the Russian army throughout the fighting have increased their criticism. According to reports, a large number of extreme Russian nationalists have now started criticizing the war leadership over the losses of the Russian army. One of the Russian sources who have been heavily insulting the Russian war leadership through his channel on Telegram made the following interesting statements about the losses. We repulsed the enemy in Avdiivka, we captured the city, but is it all over? Will no one be held accountable? The war leadership pretends that everything is normal, but in Avdiivka we suffered extraordinary losses. Irreplaceable losses. We lost almost 16,000 men and almost 300 armored vehicles. 16,000 does not include the seriously wounded. And the vast majority of these men will never return to the front. The Russian death toll in the Avdiivka offensives between mid-October and mid-February exceeded the official death toll of the Soviet-Afghan War, which resulted in 15,000 deaths. The unfortunate and formerly sadly remembered senseless war in Afghanistan, which once left heavy scar on the entire generation and especially accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union. The fight for Avdiivka has continued since 2014 and 2015 and continued with varying intensity throughout the years before 2022 and was also extremely bloody and violent throughout Russia's almost 2-year full special military operation. Moreover, the legal and alleged Russian death toll in the Avdiivka is literally amounts about 15% of the city's entire population in 2021, or about 32,000. And that's the only last 4 months and only based on our estimates. And what are you doing and what are you going to do for the New York City? How many more Russians are you planning to drive to the front without a plan? And Avdiivka's defenses have slowly collapsed despite a severe lack of ammunition and vehicles, especially against Russian jets that restlessly drop dozens of guides and bombs on the city every day. What do you plan to do when new support comes to Ukraine? Do your job properly. Don't make more Russian citizens perish for the sake of your absurd strategies and goals. As can be seen, extreme Russian nationalists are making very serious criticisms of the Russian war leadership based on the data. The Russian army's losses in Avdiivka have further eroded the already weak sense of the unity among Russians. If the Ukrainian army had continued to receive support, Avdiivka probably would not have fallen. But what happens if the Ukrainian army gets support now? Even the pro-Russians can no longer stand by the Russian war leadership. This opportunity should be seized. So what do you think? What do you think the mistakes of the Russian army will lead to? Do you think that the Russian people trust the Russian army? Do you think it's possible that the extreme Russian nationalists will react more against in the Russian army? Let me know in the comments. I read and I care about all your comments.